Okay, hello. So we're going to talk about what are sentence patterns. And this is very important because whenever we write, our grammar has to be right as well. So we need to know how to write sentences in order to create paragraphs, right? So we're going to talk about certain patterns. Um, okay, so pretty much this is to understand the basics of English and the sentence structures that are in English. Next. And why learning sentence pattern is kind of important. Well, um, the pattern or the structure of a sentence are essential to understand or to build sentences when you write or constructing sentences. Two, most sentences in English follow basic patterns. And three, in order to master these patterns, it will help you create more compound or complex sentences later on. So what are the building blocks? So in a previous video, I talked about parts of speech. Every sentence has a part in it. In order to build the sentence, it has parts in it, right? So, and those are called parts of speech. So in a sentence, you can have noun, pronouns, adjectives, verbs, adverbs, conjunctions, preposition, and interjections. Interjections. And these are what pretty much are the building blocks of creating sentences or writing sentences. And remember, in the video I did before, it explains the parts of a speech and what each one does. Now, the first pattern is the most simplistic one, which is when a noun plus the verb are together. And usually, this basic pattern, it's usually created by a noun and then uses an intransitive verb. An intransitive verb requires an object, right? No, sorry, it does not require an object. So verbs like cry, swim, jump, run, dance, happen, agree, sleep, laugh, go, those are intransitive verbs. There are many more. And they remember they do not require an object. For example, people work or Frankie eats. That's a complete sentence, and it's fine. Now the next pattern, it's noun, verb, and noun. So this is mostly used for um, that after the verb, it's usually a transitive verb, and it requires a noun afterwards, meaning it requires the direct object. Most of the time, the direct object will be a noun. So verbs like bring, cost, give, buy, get, lend, make something, pass, pay, read, take, show, to write, send, or refuse, those are transitive verbs. I do want to open a parenthesis to say there are verbs that can be intransitive and transitive at the same time. Uh, but that's for another talk, just letting you know. So examples of this is John plays basketball and the boys are watching TV. So as you can see, the verb is plays, and in this case, the object it's basketball, which in this case is a noun, right? And then in the second sentence, the boys are watching TV. Well, are watching is the verb, and TV is the noun. So that's how this pattern works. So the first noun is your subject, which is either John or the boys. Then comes your verb, that is either plays or are watching in this case. And then the noun, it's basketball or TV as television, right? And that would be a noun that is also called your object. Next. See, this is the next one. So this one is sentences that have a noun, a verb, and an adverb. You already know what's an adverb, and if not, check about the video, which has the parts of speech. So in this pattern, it pretty much what the adverb does is to describe how the action is done. So as we know, adverbs are like quickly, happily, carefully, slowly. Um, those are adverbs. And in the example, Thomas drives quickly is describing how he is driving, the action, which is to drive, right? He's driving quickly. My mom doesn't sleep deeply. Well, deeply is describing how the mother sleeps, so the action doesn't sleep. So it's the action of how she sleeps. That's what is described. So that's what adverbs do. They describe the action of how something is getting done. Then comes the next pattern, which is a noun, a linking verb, and a noun. So this one, as you know, most linking verbs are either the verb to be, become, or seem. Those are linking verbs, or even will, the modal of will, joined with the verb, that becomes a linking verb. So for example, in this case, Jack is a student. So the linking verb is es, and it's linking Jack and the noun, which is a student, right? It's linking these two verbs. And then this seed will become an apple. So will become is the linking verb of this sentence. Okay. Next is noun, linking verb, and adjective. This is pretty similar to the pattern that we just did, but instead of a noun, you're gonna have an adjective. So, and remember, an adjective describes the noun, okay? So adjectives are like slowly, unhappy, um, colors can be colors are adjectives like red or blue or black. Sizes, weight, those are also adjectives. Um, so in this case, the example says my computer is slow. Slow is the adjective. Is the linking verb. Is describing how the computer is acting or is functioning. It is functioning slowly. And then her parents seem unhappy. Seem is the linking verb, and then is describing how they're unhappy, they're sad, right? Or maybe they're upset. We don't know. We know they're unhappy. So who is unhappy? The parents, her parents. Then it comes. Now we're going to talk about indirect objects. So an indirect object receive the benefit of an action, and it is usually placed before the direct object in the sentence. So for example, in here, we have Tom gave me the book. Melissa bought Tim some chocolate. So as you can see in here, the subject we all know, which is the noun, it's Tom, right? Gave, it's the verb. Me is the indirect object, and then the book will be the direct object. Okay? And then in the second sentence, Melissa, it's the noun or the subject. Then it comes the verb to bought, which is to buy in the past. Then it comes Tim. Tim in this case will be the indirect object. And then some chocolate will be the direct object. Okay? So So in the first sentence, me is what receives the benefit of the book. Okay? And in the second sentence, Tim is the one who receives the benefit, which is some chocolate. Okay? So that's how indirect objects work. They're usually in front of the direct object and after the verb. And they are the ones that receive the benefit of the action. That means me and Tim are the ones that are benefiting out of this whole sentence. Okay, now nouns as indirect objects. Indirect objects can be nouns, can be things, objects, people, etc. And this is because most indirect objects might be people and they received a benefit of the action. Okay, so more examples of that. I read Peter the report. So it has I, which is the subject, which is a pronoun, right? Then plus the verb, which is read, and then indirect object, Peter, and then direct object, the report. So you can see Peter is a person, and then it's in the indirect object. And if we go back at who's receiving the benefit is received by Peter because he's getting the report to be read to him. Now the second sentence is Mary showed Alice her house. So we know that the Mary is the subject, which is a noun. Then comes the verb showed. Indirect object is Alice, and the direct object is her house. So Mary's house. Okay. So hopefully that clarifies a little bit how nouns work as indirect objects most of the time. Now, the pronouns for indirect objects. So we have something called in English object pronouns, right? And these object pronouns are usually used as indirect objects, okay? So when your teacher says, what are object pronouns? These are the ones that you're gonna say. Me, you, him, her, it, us, you, and them. These are called object pronouns, and they're usually or almost always used as indirect objects. So you can recognize them very quickly in a sentence. When you see these ones, that means that they are acting as indirect objects in the sentence. So they're easy to recognize. For example, Sam told me the story. So the subject will be Sam, sorry. Then, which is a noun, right? Then it comes the verb, which is told. The indirect object is me, which we know is an object pronoun. Okay, that's the name. That's how these are called. And then the story, which is the direct object. And then the next sentence is the boss lent them the investment money. So the boss is the subject, lent is the verb, them is the indirect object, the investment money is the direct object. Okay? Okay, so that's it for explaining sentences or patterns of sentences. We saw like 6 of them. If you have any questions, you know my number. It's right there on the slide. You can email me through inbox, or if it's very, very urgent, you can use the personal email through the school, which is right there. Also, if you have any questions or further questions and you don't understand, please come to the student hours that you chose and you voted for, which is Tuesdays and Thursdays, I believe, or Wednesdays. No, I think it's Thursdays. So just come to the office hours, check the homepage on Canvas. Have a wonderful day, and thank you for paying attention and spending your time with me. Bye.